Hey everybody, welcome back to another MRC video. This time we're going to be doing another something different. Say hi, Pirate.
Hey,
So today we're going to be doing something that the illustrious and glorious Lord of the MRC himself, Lord Carbon, actually threw out as an idea a while back, and we're finally getting around to testing it out. We're going to be doing something called Pimp My List. This is going to be maybe a new series going forward if you guys like it, and if you guys send us more lists. This was his list that he offered up to us to do this as a test run because this was also his idea. So we're going to go forward and use his list. What do you think, Pirate?
I'm thinking this is going to be fun and be interesting seeing different styles approach the same mechs here.
Yeah, so the plan is we're going to go over this list and pick it apart, go through each of the mechs and look at their loadouts and also their piloting skills and battle values and all that. And then Pirate and I are going to take a little break. It won't be too long for you people at home, but we're going to pimp this list in our own way and do what we think we need to do to improve it for whatever we think that may be. We're going to assume that the situation is one of our classic MRC tournaments with multiple objective based missions that need to be accomplished, because that's what we usually tend to play here, instead of just designing a list for straight up stand up fight, which is boring if you ask me.
No, there's an art to stand up fight though, so this is already getting spicy, but I agree with you that having the same strategy over and over and over and over and over leaves a lot of gray areas untouched.
To be fair, usually at least one mission in the tournaments is a stand up fight, so you can't just take a bunch of 7 jump mechs and call it good.
Can't lose the objective if you destroy the objective.
That too. This is Carbon's list. If I remember correctly, it is off the Merc MUL, correct?
Merc MUL Jihad era, and by the looks of it, 10,000k was the cap.
Yeah, he's at 9780 currently for his battle value, and he's got 3-4 pilots across the board. So he's nice and even, but he is leaving a little bit of battle value on the table there. I mean, you could easily fill in some of that just by bumping up that Wasp piloting or maybe the Wraith piloting or something.
If you've got extra BV, it's always worth upping the piloting skill if you can't get a gunnery in. I'm guessing as well, if he's doing 3-4s, he was probably trying to keep it within one of the skill levels, because that's not a requirement in all MRC tournaments, but it is a fairly common one to be within one in a lot of them.
Yeah, that's correct. MRC standard is within 2 for piloting skills, but a lot of tournaments require you to be within 1 to prevent excess feta and or cheesiness going around.
Now, I noticed that you did exactly what I would do, which is going, let me pick some midline gunnery piloting skill and up one of them and just see where I'm at. And the Wraith you picked, and it looks like you're at 9934 now. It's probably as close as you're going to get to 10,000.
Yeah, that's perfect right there. I mean, if you're within 100 points, a little over 100 points, so be it. If you can't adjust anything to make it get closer to 10,000 or whatever your BV total is, by all means, get as close as you can and call it good if you're happy with your list. Go ahead.
You definitely do get style points for getting exactly 10,000 on the nose or 9,000 on the nose if you can max it out to a certain point value. But there is something to be said about even that one there, leaving 200 and change points on the table. That's 1 mech out of 5 with +1 on piloting roll. How many PSR checks or kicking or punches is that Wraith going to make in a game? 1 does help, but it's not like the biggest change in the world. So we'll be doing a little min-maxing here, but at the same time, it should all be taken in context of it's +1 on rolls on 1 mech as an example here.
Yeah, everything has a cost benefit, and we're going to be going over some of these as we go through this build. Speaking of which, since we are talking about this Wraith, why don't we go ahead and start with it as we get into this list?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with Wraiths, other than I know they jump and I know they have pulse lasers. So what's it got on it?
Now, this one in particular I've been using, and this model in particular I'm actually planning on bringing to NashCon. It's a nice, kind of chunky, jumpy boy. It's 7'11'7" with a 385 XL and 20 heat sinks total. Standard gyro, 152 out of 185 armor. Not bad for a fast mech. Weapon loadout, on the other hand, is a little anemic. You got 2 medium pulse lasers and a large pulse laser. So you're basically a really big spider.
It's better than what I was thinking, which was a pulse laser and more armored assassin.
Not quite like the assassin, more it functions and feels more like just a big spider.
Yeah.
Especially considering I'm using a spider as well in the list, and they tend to tag team wherever they go jumping together.
That's fair. I also noticed it had an XL engine up there, like most Inner Sphere mechs.
That is correct, which means if you lose one of those torsos, you lose the whole mech, because this is an Inner Sphere XL engine.
But there's no ammo to explode, so maybe you're less likely to lose it.
Yeah, I mean, if you get cored out in any of your 3 torsos, the mech's done for. But at that point, you've got a decent amount of armor. 23 in the center torso, 18 in the right and left. Can't quite take an AC-20 to the left and right torso, but you can take one to the center torso, which is a pretty decent benchmark.
And you can take an Inner Sphere medium laser to a rear torso, so that's not bad.
Yeah, no, not bad. I like this mech. It's very well balanced. If anything is going to stay on the list, it's probably going to be this bugger right here. But that's still a little too soon to call. We have to check out the other mechs first.
I do like him, though, because now that you said spider, with the pulse lasers, I could see that.
Yeah, it's definitely similar in playstyle and feel, for sure. Even at 3-4, you're under 2,000 battle value by a good bit. In fact, you're just under 1,700 battle value with this bad boy. So you can definitely squeeze them into lists if you need a jumper when you otherwise wouldn't be able to.
So let me pull up one mech to compare that again. So if we're going to talk jumpy pulse, let me pull up my favorite jumpy pulse because I forget what skill or BV he's at.
Oh, by all means, load it up into Mega Mech and let's take a look at it.
Alright, so I've got here a Zeal 8S, and my Mega Mech has slightly crashed, but...
Oh, now that's a interesting movement profile there.
588, I love it.
Yeah, that means it's got improved jump jets, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it's odd, I can see it on your screen, but not my screen.
That's weird. I can see you added a second one, too. Oh, now they're both gone. And now you're gone. No, pirate!
I've been Shanghai.
By your own server.
So, when we're talking jumpy pulse, I like to compare it to the Zeal 8S, which, candidly, if I was going to get a tattoo of a mech, it would be of this mech, because I love it that much.
Ah, so this is your hammerhead for me.
Oh, absolutely. So, the Zeal 8S is a 588 profile. It's super efficient at movement because it's just going to be running all the time.
Hang on 1 second. I'm just going to double check. I just want to see the availability for this Zeal 8S.
Don't look too hard.
So here we are in Jihad. It is available to mercs. So this is fair game for you to use in list building. It's mercs and Lyran Alliance.
And I love it in Lyran Alliance because Lyrans eventually have a unit that goes rogue and enters the Vesper Marches. So,
pirates, you say?
The Vesper Marches is basically, Inner Sphere pirate kingdom, so gotta love it. But anyway, that's several hundred years later. So the Zeal 8S at 588 has 4 medium pulse lasers. It jumps and a streak 6 in there just for giggles. And crit seeking. But when you look at this and you look at the Wraith can run further, meaning that it also has more charge potential. And it's got that large pulse laser, so it has range to it. The Zeal is extremely short range. So I kind of like that Wraith. I may have to go find a model of that somewhere as well and pair it up with that Zeal when I really want to not have opponents to play against on round 2.
Well, if you picked up the Alpha Strike box, you got a Wraith model with that.
Oh, no, I didn't do that. I just doubled down on metals again.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, metals are pretty heavy. Nice. So, one thing to note is that you can fire pretty much all of these pulse lasers and streak 6s if you don't jump, and you'll be heat neutral, I think. or close to it.
Correct, because it's got improved jump jets, so that Uziel 8S, it can jump 8 and Alpha Strike every turn, and it has 24 heat sinks, and and it generates exactly 24 heat as well, so it's completely neutral.
So this is a perfectly sunk mech, which is very rare for an out-of-the-box mech. One thing to note is that it's also a little bit more expensive than the Wraith, coming in at $1839 versus the Wraith's $1699 battle value at a 3/4 pilot skill.
Correct, and not really that much more armor either, if I remember. So 160 versus 152, but
yeah,
these I see these as kind of like barbecue sauce and ketchup. They're both going to be great options for your dinner table.
oh yeah, definitely. Do you want to dip your cheese stick in ranch or barbecue sauce? Go for it. Take your pick. Why not both?
But that's getting into a totally different one here. So
yeah, we'll save that for when we come back to our list building. I expect to see at least one Uziel.
Oh, maybe I just have to surprise you now. But it is a good way for me to compare that Wraith to something that I use and understand on a frequent basis.
Yeah, all right. So that's the Wraith TR1. We'll go ahead and go down to the next lightest mech. We're going to go a little out of the order you see here, top to bottom on the screen. But this little wasp, I'm not sure which one this is. So it's 696 movement profile, 20 tonner, 20 heat sinks, 56 out of 69 armor. So this thing is paper. 2 ER medium lasers and a tag. Oh, there we go. And an ECM suite.
So why do you think he chose this mech? It's probably not the cheapest mech available to mercenaries if he was just trying to get an initiative sync. It does have that Guardian ECM, but he doesn't really have C3, so it's not using it for defense there, unless he's trying to counter something. Well, and he's got tag, but nothing that uses tag, that I think.
Yeah, we'll have to take a look at the rest of the mechs, but I'm pretty sure between 2 Chargers and a Jaeger mech, there's not going to be anything to really take advantage of the tag, at least not significantly, to make it worth picking this Wasp over something else. The 2 ER mediums aren't terrible, but you're oversunk by a good bit already, because you only can generate 6 on the jump and another 10, so you're 4 over, which isn't the worst thing in the world. It's better than being 4 under. But the tag might be a waste of tonnage, but the ECM suite is just nice to have. I can't blame them for bringing the ECM. There's a lot of incidental uses, like, countering out narc or whatever, because there are some things that are legal like that.
Artemis, I think Streak.
Yes, correct.
On the table. So maybe it's incidental ECM along with being in a knit sync, along with those ERs, they can be annoying. And that 696, maybe he's the, little brother of the Wraith jumping around everywhere. But, so far I see a really good Trooper Wraith. And then I see this Wasp, which it's not terrible, but
it's pretty terrible.
Oh, it's for its BV. It's 795 BV at 3/4. It's just I'm not seeing why it's here outside of a mobile ECM / annoyance.
Yeah, as far as initiative syncs / jumpy light mechs go, I think there's better options than this. Especially on the Merc MUL, because they pretty much have the most access to mechs possible.
The Merc MUL is the Americana restaurant. It's got everything in it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so, not much to write home about here. You get nailed with anything bigger than a medium inner sphere medium laser, and it's pretty much going internal anywhere on this mech, except for maybe, the center torso, which you need a large laser to get through.
Oh, speaking of getting nailed with giant weapons, what do you think of that Jaeger mech?
Good call. Let's take a look at this one next. Oh, I love that photo.
I've never actually seen this variant before.
Me either. So 65 tonner is our standard Jaeger mech, 4/6 movement profile, with the 260 inner sphere XL engine, which means we have the torso problem. Very lightly armored, 116 out of 211. So this guy is going to be sitting way in the back trying to play it safe. It has less armor than your Wraith does, that's jumping for 7 every turn. Keep that in context. Oh yeah, hey, remember we were talking about this in one of the other episodes where you said you noticed that mechs would have less leg armor? This is one of those situations. It's got 12 armor in the right leg, 12 armor in the left leg, and then it's got 17 in the left and right torso, and then 18 in the center torso. This is exactly what you described as one of those standard sniper mechs that's just going to sit in the back and lob fire downrange. And if you want to take a look at the weapon loadout, you'll see exactly why.
Yeah, so it's 2 Gauss rifles there, 1 in each arm. So it's another one that's just going to go sit behind cover and pop shots all game. 2 medium lasers. It is different that just comparing it to the 6S, which I also pulled up. The 6S only has 96 armor. This has 116, so it's slightly more armored. But the bigger thing is the 6X is basically a walking ammo explosion, because there's 3 ammo bins with a lot of ammo to get destroyed.
And no case.
No case. But that Jagermech 6DG, it has the Gauss rifles, which could explode, but no ammo. So at worst, you're going to get hurt, but it's not going to destroy the mech. And it has case. So, your arm pops off. That's not the end of the world.
Wait, that's weird. It says the case is in the left torso and the right torso, but the Gauss rifles are in the left arm and the right arm. And all the Gauss rifle ammo, which is inert and does not blow up, mind you, is in the left and right torsos. So somebody tell me what's going on here. Who was smoking on the job when they designed this?
So what happened here was a bunch of inner sphere techs went, the clanners all had case and their ammo didn't explode. We should stick that on our mechs, and just not knowing where to put it.
Yeah, that could be it. Hey, it said put case in the mech. They didn't say where. All right.
Is it possible that inner sphere can't put case in the arms because they can't put ammo in the arms?
I do believe that may be the case. Now that you mention it, I think there is build restrictions, which begs the question: why even put it in at all?
Maybe it prevents the Gauss rifle exploding and damage, destroying the torso. Well, no, because you've got more than 20. I'm trying to think of a situation where your Gauss in your arm explodes, ammo explosion creeps into the torso, destroys that, and then also creeps into the center.
It doesn't matter. Once you lose that torso, your mech's done anyway because it's an XL.
Well,
I mean, the pilot will be alive at that point, but
maybe it's a campaign thing where you're expected to swap out the Gauss for, I don't know, machine guns or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting design choices, but this is a Gauss sniper that's got plenty of ammo to go the distance. You can fire both of those Gauss rifles every turn, even if you don't have the best numbers, and just pray you hit something.
So 24 turns worth of Gauss ammo there.
Oh yeah, can definitely go the distance. So not the best sniper mech, but also not the worst. At least it won't, blow up completely at the first sign of getting an ammo hit. In fact, all that Gauss rifle ammo will soak hits in those torsos.
I'll counter you with saying not the best mech. So this does remind me of that Sun Cobra I love taking, which is basically 2 Gauss rifles and literally nothing else. For a BV of 2145, that's not bad.
Yeah, mind you, this is at 3-4. The 4-5 battle value is going to be a good bit lower. One thing to note between this and that Sun Cobra that you love so much is that Sun Cobra is A, clan mech, and B, comes with a targeting computer, and has C, no backup weapons. We failed to mention that there is 2 medium lasers in the center torso on this mech, just in case something gets too close. And we do have 10 standard heat sinks, so you're really not oversunk on this mech at all, because you can't generate enough heat to oversink or to overheat.
That's fair.
Standard heat sinks, cost saving measure. When you got those big expensive Gauss rifles in there.
Now, I was trying to find it. There is a Cyclops with 2 Gauss rifles. I was trying to find something similar with a dual Gauss.
I thought there was one with 4.
I mean, Gausszilla has 4.
No, Gausszilla has 5.
So I did find this Pillager 4Z. Let me change the piloting skill. So there is a Pillager with 2 Gauss rifles and 2 ER mediums, so it's pretty close in design. It does jump 3 and it has almost twice the armor for 1 less movement speed, but it's also nearly twice the cost. So, for its BV, I like it for its BV.
And yeah, I was mistaken. I was thinking of one of the here we go. I was thinking of the non-Gausszilla Annihilator, the Annihilator C2. That's the one I was thinking of.
Hold on, keep that on the screen there. 4 Gauss rifles, I knew that, but and an ER PPC?
Yep.
That's just gross.
And it's got enough heat sinks to fire them all from the looks of it and walk.
But yeah, it's like,
for all of 2 hexes.
Yeah, I think that Annihilator above it's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, this is the Gausszilla with 5 Gauss rifles, but this is also a non-available mech. If I'm not mistaken, this is what do they call it? A unique variant, which means even if it shows up on your MUL, you're not allowed to use it. I could be wrong, but let's check the MUL.
Maybe this is a good time to call out what the MUL is.
Oh yeah, so Master Unit List, or the MUL for short, is our one-stop shop to checking which faction has what units at any given point in time along the timeline that is Battletech. So you can go all the way back to pre-Star League eras and fighting crappy tanks and helicopters and stuff in the Age of War, and then you can creep up through the Star League era into the early Succession Wars, and then into Lost Tech and the 3025 era, where right here, late Succession Wars, where your Grognards live, and then we get to the Clan Invasion, where your Clan Grognards live, and then we get to Civil War, where a lot of people think that Battletech ends, and then we get to the Jihad, which is the WizKid days, and then we get to the Early Republic, the Late Republic, the Dark Age, and now we're in the modern era into Ill Clan. Does that about sum it up?
Well, it does, but does it make you feel a bit old that the Age of War started 18 years ago?
I know, we're missing out. We should have fusion engines by now, GM. God damn it. But for our purposes today, we are in the Jihad era. And once you click on an era, it'll give you a list of every single faction that's available and their designator. So here are all the Inner Sphere factions. And there is something known as the Inner Sphere General List. Not every faction will have access to this general list that's Inner Sphere, but a lot of them do. And if they have access to the general list, they have every unit that is on this general list. So if you build something off the general list for any particular area, like the Inner Sphere, you should be good to use all of these mechs for any of those factions, and they should show up on their master unit list.
So another example is if you were to click like the I don't know, Regulans there, for example.
Where are they? Further up, further down.
Space Egypt.
Oh, Space Egypt. Here we go. Why didn't you say so?
Yeah, well, because they get spicy in the lore too. But if you look at the top there, it's the Regulan feats in the Jihad area, including Inner Sphere General. So things like mercenaries don't get access to Inner Sphere General because they're not in that list there. Only the everyone within that column gets access to the general list in it. But sometimes it gets kind of weird, like some clans get access to Homeworld Clan even though they're an IS clan, so it is always best to just click on the faction rather than trying to mash things together. But if you did search the MUL under units, then that's where you need to make sure to select the Inner Sphere list along with the unit list you're looking for.
Yeah, and for an example of a faction that does not have access to a quote unquote general list, we'll look at the periphery column. So here's the periphery general, and here is all the mechs that are on periphery general, which means every periphery faction that has access to the periphery general list has those mechs. But unfortunately, the Escorpion Imperio during the Jihad era does not have access. It says including blank general list, which means you don't get access to a general list, unfortunately. So this is what you get right here. These 365 mechs, 95 combat vehicles, and so on and so forth. This is it. This is what you got to deal with if you want to build an Escorpion Imperio list.
And 365 is still a good amount of mechs to choose from, though, so don't poo-poo it.
Well, let's take a look at mercenaries, which are kind of a free-for-all, and see how many mechs. Oh, they have 857 mechs to choose from. So significantly more than double.
Compare that to someone like the Cercinus Federation, one of the smaller MULs. It only has 139 mechs to choose from.
Yeah. So when it comes to list building, there are some, one could call them cop-out factions, like the mercenaries, because they have access to a whole lot of stuff. I don't consider them a cop-out. I consider them a nice option if you don't identify with any of the other factions. Although there are quite a few, and a lot of people do have factions that they identify with, like Lord Carbon and the Capellan Confederation, which I'm surprised this list is not a Capellan list. It's a mercenary list, but understandable.
He's looking for the TriStar Irregulars mercenary faction.
Oh, which is even better. And everybody usually wants to have their own, merc faction. So that's generally how it works. This is generally how you find a faction. When we say faction and era, this is what we mean. We mean go to master unit list, go to whatever era you want to play in, or whichever era you like, or whatever era people are building lists for the next tournament for, which I think we're in late Republic or Dark Age now for the NFL format.
We'll be moving to Dark Age in July.
Yeah. So, and then you click on the era, and then you pick yourself a faction that you like, or one that has units that you like, and you go from there. So for our purposes today, we're going to be working off the Jihad era and the mercenary faction master unit list. And you can also look up units individually, like we did earlier. Oops, not
Not
a
sure
Maya
what
later.
exactly you're spelling, but okay.
A Maya later. So
Sounds like a kid's cartoon that's gone rogue. Yeah. So we don't do spelling in the MRC, so you're fitting in real well right here.
it's one of those letters. Hang on.
Just type ANN. There's not that many. That's just.
God damn it. I know how to spell it, I swear.
Annie, are you okay?
No, I'm not. Because it didn't show. Oh, there it is. Okay, finally. Okay, so here's the Annihilator. Where's that Annihilator Gosszilla?
I'm gonna give you a mnemonic code so you remember it forever. But if you spell it the Annihilator,
Oh, god damn it. All right, so here's the Annihilator C, quote unquote Gosszilla. And don't fail me now. Okay, this says extinct. So
it's extinct everywhere.
it's extinct in every single era, which means it's not fair game. But that being said, there are other mechs that are unique.
Oh, I think you probably got one there with the Anna Stealth. Oh, but there's going to be like 35 Marauders, so surely one of these is probably unique.
So here's the Marauder Bounty Hunter version. Let's take a look. Oh, there we go. Mercenary and unique. That means even if this does show up on your master unit list, you can't use it because it's a super special mech. That's that's not bad. 453 for 45 points. Anyway, moving. But it's a mech that most people should not have access to because it's a one-off.
Well, and it'd be embarrassing for a unique mech to show up multiple times, but more importantly, there are some ways to balance out tech levels by using era, and some of these unique mechs have special rules, special weapons, or they start using advanced tech, and they start skewing the game and usually become a little overpowered. So removing unique mechs is a good way to um, make the field a little more fluffy friendly, but also a quick way to remove a lot of potential problems. Like if we were ever to look at the flex sheet of the Whitworth 5S, it has a bunch of weird, funky, goofy stuff that no one else has in Jihad, like advanced arm actuators and X-pulse lasers and other crap that just make it unfun, for people not prepared for that.
Now, which Whitworth is this?
The 5S, because I accidentally took a pair of them because I thought it was awesome. You had it on the screen there. Oh, here's another tip. Do Control A up there. Up a little bit into the boxes. So if you do Control A, it searches all of them at once.
You've told me that before, and I just forgot. I'm like, oh yeah, I need to try that, and just keep you going about clicking my clicky ways.
Thank you, Nitro Burst, for telling us about this.
Oh hey, yeah, thanks Nitro. Oh yeah, see there we go. Medium X pulse laser, Streak 6, AES. Oh yeah, supercharger case 2.
And it's got composite armor instead of Indo steel or standard. There's just a lot of weird stuff happening with this mech in the era.
Yeah, it's experimental right there, and I don't think it's unique.
No, it's unique because otherwise I'd have run it.
Ah, okay. Actually, let's pull it up. Another proof of concept.
But yeah, that's an example of, hey, I'm showing up with this thing. All right, we need to, drop 30 minutes figuring out the rules of what happens with composite armor because no one else is using it.
And there it is, the unique modifier right there, which says, no, you can't use this.
Which is frustrating because look at those Alpha Strike stats.
Yeah, that's not bad. 32 points, 8-inch jump, 4 damage at medium range. Not a lot of armor, but it's forgivable.
Just don't get shot. It's easy.
Oh, it does have jump weak though. So.
Yeah, but Team M2.
Yeah, so it goes back down to 2 if you jump. All right. Well, anyway, now we're getting in the weeds. But yeah, so we finished off on the Jaeger mech. We've meandered a bit here and there, but I think it's time to get to the Bash Brothers here of this list. Ugh. I'm getting a lisp. Whoop. So we're gonna start with the CGR-KMZ, which is an interesting designator. The Charger is an 80-ton assault mech known for being fast and wanting to get up in real close. And interestingly enough, this one has the role of sniper, which I would never hear the word Charger and then immediately think sniper. So I got a feeling we're going to be surprised at what the hell is going on with this mech, because it looks like it's got a sword or some sort of whoop-ass stick in its hand for the sprite.
It absolutely does.
So it's got a 466 movement profile, a 320 XL engine, inner sphere, so torso issues, 24 double heatsinks, or heatsinks total, standard gyro, 186 out of 247 light ferrofibrous armor. So not the most armored Charger I've seen, but it's got enough. It's an assault mech. And what the hell is this weapon loadout, Pirate?
It's beautiful is what it is. So it's got 2 light PPCs in the left arm, basically if you wanted your medium laser to go really far. It's also got my favorite weapon, the heavy PPC in the left torso. So you got a head capper at a decent BV, and an MML9 in the right torso with 2 tons of ammo, so pick your flavor.
Is that? Yeah, that's a sword in the right arm, and it's also got case in the right torso to protect the 2 tons of ammo that are in the right arm. What the hell?
Are you sure your Mega Mech is not acting up?
I don't think so. It says right torso for case, and it says ammo location right arm.
Sure both tons. I'm gonna check mine. I'm gonna check my Mega Mech.
I'm about to pull it up on whatchamacallit, Mega Mech Lab, just to double check and see what the actual record sheet looks like, because this doesn't sound.
Sure enough, it does say the ammo is in the right arm.
Okay, so there's some weird case going on here. There's a sword here. It's an assault mech
case.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a very confusing Charger. I hear Charger and I immediately think I want to get up there and start kicking people in the shins with that bad boy. It's got a sword. which doesn't do as much damage, but it is more accurate and it does hit on the full body table. And you can take the, I think it's a +4 penalty to your swing to roll on the punch table with the sword or any other melee weapon for that matter.
Correct.
So I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, on the one hand, you have that heavy PPC and those 2 lights that you can fire as you close the distance with your 4.66 movement profile. You've got enough heat sinks to fire either the heavy and jump or the 2 lights and the MML9 and jump. You can't fire both or all of your weapons without overheating significantly.
So I've got this pulled up on Flex, but it does the same thing as what you're showing. If you scroll down a hair, I mean, so far I'm liking this mech because a jumping charger just sounds intimidating, and for 2300 BV at that 3-4 level, that is nice. It's a sword, it can kick if it needs to, you got a potential head capper there, heavy PPC is nice, but here's what I don't like. Mechs with a melee weapon are usually cursed to have that melee weapon critted out before they actually get to use the melee weapon. I don't think you have a strong disagreement there.
No, I agree with you completely. The weapons, the melee weapons, I should say, are always in an arm. And generally speaking, you're going to lose an arm before you lose, a torso or a leg or something to a big AC-20 hit.
And not only that, but the sword is spread over 2 tables, so the right arm has an upper and a lower table. So you have a pretty high chance of the arm getting critted, but you know what we should do in order to really make sure you can't ever use that sword?
Put a weapon in that arm?
Even better. Put the ammo in that arm.
Oh, yeah, that's just asking to lose that half of the mech. I mean, at least put the ammo in the torso with case. I mean, if the ammo goes up in the arm, the mech's done because it's going to transfer to the torso and take out the torso. You got an Inner Sphere XL anyway. So why even give yourself the opportunity for the arm taking you out when you can just throw it in the torso?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking. The sword does take up a lot of crit spaces, and it's got improved jump jets, which take up crit spaces. So maybe there just wasn't enough physical room in there. There's not a lot of space anywhere on this mech. You can't put jump jets in the arms, but
That's true. There is an XL engine, and the MML9, I'm sure, is not a small component.
yeah, but I really feel sticking that ammo on the sword arm is a lot like, hey, we can't tie down this Christmas tree, so we're just gonna leave it on the roof and drive real slow. Like, they're just asking for trouble.
Yeah, so I'm conflicted. I like light PPCs. I like the heavy PPC, and I like the MML9. I don't like the sword. I don't like the case being in the wrong spot. And I'm not sure how I feel about the 4.6 movement profile. That seems slow for a charger. I mean, yes, it can jump for 6, which is great. But, I mean, you want to charge with the charger and get into melee and get that sword coming into play, which, I mean, the jump jets help you with that. But if you're jumping, you're going to have bad shots with your light PPCs or heavy PPC in your MML9. So you want to stay grounded, generally speaking.
Yeah.
At least that's the way I see it. The sword is kind of an afterthought. I mean, I would prefer an axe over the sword any day of the week.
But at least this is a sword and not just a sword-shaped hatchet. But
True. I mean, the sword is what, -2 to your target number, so it's like a pulse punch, I guess, that does slightly more damage.
yeah, and it's like weight divided by 7 plus 1 or something.
Yeah, so it's going to be more damage than a punch. And if you do go for the cheeky, I'm going to give myself a +4 penalty to hit and go for the punch table, I think you can cockpit a mech with that sword, if I'm not mistaken.
Easily, especially if it's a mech that hasn't moved much. So let's say that you're piloting forward here. Let's say that you walk, that's 5. Let's say your opponent did a careful stand and got no TMM. Right, so I'm on 5s. -2 for it being a sword, you're back to 3. Well, you know what? I really want to hit his upper body somewhere. I'm going to take that +4. Now you're on 7. So 7's to hit on the upper body instead of 3s.
Yeah, and that's a 1 in 6 chance to basically cold cock the mech right in the head and take him out. I think the sword will do enough damage. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. I could probably look that up real quick though.
We probably could, or we could just YOLO it and say, if we're going to hit the head, we're probably going internal. If we're not going
Oh,
to outright kill it.
oh yeah, at a bare minimum, you're going internal. It's an 80-ton mech. A punch will almost put it in internal.
Yeah, so it's probably 80 tons, 80 divided by 7. That's not going to happen tonight. So we're just going to call it somewhere around the 11 or 12 damage minimum.
Yeah, so, but I mean, that's also 11 or 12 damage that you can guarantee on the upper body. So if they've lost an arm and they have a torso exposed or something like that, or heaven forbid for them, you're in the rear arc, that way you don't hit legs when you're in the rear arc, you can definitely go internal on most mechs.
Or go against another Charger Kamikaze variant and go hit the ammo that's in their arm.
That too. All right, I think that's enough for this KMZ Charger here. We've ragged on it for like 5 minutes.
What about the KR?
Okay, all right. The KR is looking better already. It's a 585 400 XL engine, 20 heat sinks total. We got our standard 80-ton mech. Here we go. It's got more armor, 212 out of 247. Still light ferrofibrous, which no problem with that. And just at a glance, I'm liking this mech significantly more. Granted, it's also 500 battle value more expensive than this last Charger, but I think it's well spent.
So why is that, Justy?
Well, we'll get into the real reason why I think this is much better in a little bit, but let's go through the weapons themselves. We have a snub nose PPC, a light PPC, 2 ER medium lasers, a regular inner sphere medium laser. Hey, there we go. A small laser, just for shits and giggles, I guess. Well, actually, no, there's a very important reason why that small laser is there, which we'll get into shortly. And an ER small laser. So you've basically got the gamut of lasers and PPCs here to generate basically almost any number of heat that you want in a given turn, which is very important when your mech has TSM. Yay! Finally, a mech that's got triple strength armor and a melee weapon. Too bad it's not an axe, but a sword I'll take, because with TSM, it's going to do so much damage anyway, it'll be well worth it. And just to top it all off, a little cherry on top, this thing's got a targeting computer. So you're automatically down to a gunnery of 2 for all your weapons. Unfortunately, I do not think the targeting computer works for the sword.
Does not. But you still have -2 on the sword and -1 for everything. So what you do, you smack it with the sword to open a hole. And if you don't kill it the next turn, you can shoot it with a bunch of -1s and then smack it with the sword again if it's still standing.
Yeah, the only thing this thing doesn't have, which I think is good because it would jack the price up quite a bit, is pulse lasers to help you catch those pesky, spiders and wraiths and stuff. But I think that's perfectly fine because you got the targeting computer to make up for it and that sword. So if they get anywhere near you with your 585 movement profile, which I like a lot better than the 466 movement profile, even though you can't jump as far, that extra little bit of run can make all the difference, especially if you actually end up charging with your charger.
So fun fact, charging with a charger with TSM, the TSM does give you extra movement, but it doesn't give you extra damage.
Correct. TSM will not affect your charge damage, only the amount of movement you can generate for the charge.
Now, that TSM though, even though it's got the sword, if you wanted to, let's say that you did have that pesky spider coming up on you, and you're like, you know what, I've got a decent chance to hit it in melee, the sword would probably kill it. But if you really wanted to cheese it off, if you kicked it, you would do 80 divided by 5 times 2. Was that like 40? That's not
Hang on,
40 points of
hang on.
damage.
Don't make me do math. I think it is, Pirate. What was it? 80 divided by
By
5.
5
That's 16,
times 2. Okay, so you're doing
32 damage.
32 damage in clusters of 5 on, well, no, because it's melee weapon.
No,
32 damage.
that's the
on,
kick. That's the
Yeah.
kick.
Well, true. So on a kick, 32 damage to a spider, you're blowing that leg off and probably destroying its side torso while you're at it.
Correct. Oh, well, we have the calculator up. I guess we can calculate out the damage for the sword. Okay, so it's going to be 11 plus 1 is 12.
So 24.
Without TSM, you can head cap a mech with this thing. So it may be worth the gamble to give yourself that +4 to roll on the punch table, because this is a decapitator.
Oh no, I kicked most of your leg armor off. Okay. Versus I've completely taken your head off. Yeah.
Yeah, and with the TSM, that's now more than an AC 20's worth of damage. You're doing 24 damage with that sword. I don't think you even take that +4. You just roll for the 24 anywhere on that mech. And since it's more likely that you'll hit the upper body and or arms or torsos or head than you will the legs, I think it's worth it to just not give yourself that extra +2 to your target number, or +4 overall. But you know what I mean.
This is when the sword just says "to whom it may concern."
Yeah, this is when you just take the extra accuracy and you take the more likely hit, I think, from that sword when you're doing 24 damage with this bad boy. So
Agreed.
I like this one. I think this is my favorite mech out of this list that that Carbon has made. What do you think, Pirate?
Man, I do like this. So I do like that mech a lot. Let me start with that. That is a good, aggressive bully. And once that thing is up on you, I don't think you can ignore it. I do like the Wraith, just as a good general purpose trooper, jumpy pulse harasser. And I really like that Jaeger mech actually, with its dual Gauss, so it can sit behind a hill and snipe. The Wasp is still, it looks like it's just something cheap for random ECM, and the other Charger thematically works with the first, but I just don't like it as much. Even though it has a heavy PPC, I just don't like it as much. I think if I were to change this list, that Charger and that Wasp, I'd swap out, but I might keep the other 3.
And I'm right there with you on that Charger. I think it's got to go. There's got to be a better mech, even a better Charger to throw in there to go along with the Charger 3KR. The Jaeger mech, I'm not too fond of, just because, you enjoy your dual Gauss rifle mechs. I've tried them. I even tried the Sun Cobra, and it didn't really work out for me. So I'm going to probably drop the Jaeger mech, the Charger KMZ, and the Wasp, and probably keep the Wraith and the Charger K3KR. But that may change once we get into our list building.
Now, if you show up with a Cicada or something, I'm going to be disappointed.
Oh, how dare you. Isn't that a Capellan mech?
It is, and it's actually in my Grand Melee list, but I have it called Giant Bug, so it tells you what I think about him.
Oh, fair enough. But I think we're going to go ahead and split off and do our own list building, and we'll come back with whatever we've got. What do you think, Pirate?
I think to the breakout rooms, unless, wait, this isn't Zoom.
Oh man, don't. That sounds like work. Don't do that.
Sorry, don't need that trauma. Well, Justy, I will see you in a couple minutes when I try to pimp this thing out.
All right, Pirate, welcome back.
Hey.
Let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got. I talked a little bit about mine as I was making it, so we'll go ahead and start with yours.
So, first off, I did end up keeping the Charger, the Jaeger mech, and the Wraith. It seemed like that was kind of the logical core of the list, was to have the Jaeger mech sit in the back and just dual Gauss all day, and I kept the skills the same on it. The Charger, though, I did end up flipping those from 4-3 to, or sorry, from 3-4 to 4-3. The reason being, it's got a targeting computer. It's going to be running hot. It's probably going to be running most of the time, and it's going to be in short range. So I would feel a lot worse missing on a sword with triple strength than I would missing on like a medium laser where I've got multiple penalties to hit.
It's actually really funny you say that because that is the exact same logic I use, the exact same route I went with the Charger 3KR. 4-3 pilot skills. So great minds think alike there. I can go ahead and check that one off on my list too, because you just said all of the same reasons I listed off uh, as to why I did that.
You know
So
what? And I'm looking at the Wraith and I'm thinking you did the same thing I did, which is go, I don't really have enough points to do much with this, but, I can up the um, piloting on the Wraith to 3-3, given that I'm probably going to want to be kicking, or he's going to be making PSRs when he's jumping around everywhere if he gets hit.
yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. This is going to be annoying, jumping into rear arcs and kicking as many times as it can. So dropping the piloting skill is a nice touch. I mean, you've got those pulse lasers, and it doesn't have a lot of weapons, so you need to hit consistently with the weapons you do have. So keeping it at a 3 gunnery was also very good as well.
Oh yeah, 3 gunnery for sure, because you're jumping, so you want that high gunnery in order to negate that. And for me, it was, I got a list. I couldn't fit a mech that I wanted in there, which I'll go over in a minute. So at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I've got an extra 200 to burn, and it's most efficient to do that upping the Wraith's BB. Other things you could take would be like a VTOL of some sort, or some sort of annoying tank like a Scorpion. But if we're sticking with mechs, yeah, I think upping the piloting on the Wraith just made sense, because then you can jump, pulse, and potentially get a really nice kick in. And if you miss the kick, +1 to not fall over is important.
Yeah, I think we both subconsciously decided to keep it all mechs because we were assuming that was the build restriction because he had it as all mechs. So yeah, definitely the same logic there for the Wraith.
Now,
Now,
one thing I didn't do though was I did mix up the gunnery and piloting. I tried at one point I had a 5.5 and a 6.6 mech in here, but I was like, if it's on the tabletop especially, and I'm going to have to think about that, it's best that my melee mechs, I could probably handle those being 4-3 because I got a sword as indicator. But if you start messing with the piloting and gunnery skills too much, it gets a bit hard to play on the tabletop. So, if it was in person, I definitely wouldn't want to do anything outside of 3-4 or 4-3.
yeah, getting too many differing piloting gunnery skills means you're like, oh crap, I forgot I'm a 6, or oh no, I should have hit. I'm only a 4 on this one. Yeah, it helps with all the mental gymnastics you're going to have to be doing while you're playing classic BattleTech on the table. So yeah, there is something to be said about consistency. Keeping everything at 3-4 or 4-3 can go a long way, or 3-3 or 4-4.
So one thing I did do different though was the other charger. I was looking for another melee mech, and at the same time, I noticed that Wasp was probably mobile ECM. So I wanted a mech that had both melee and ECM, and going with the theme of high aggressive bully, settled on the Nodachi 2K, which is kind of common, but at the same time, it's just a good mech.
Yeah, I've seen Nitro do some nasty, nasty things with these Nodachis. I don't think he's used this one in particular, or if he has, he never fired those MRMs. I can't imagine why. But these things are nasty. They've got TSM, they've got the sword, and they're no slouches. They're 5.8s. They can keep up with the Charger.
Yeah, what attracted me on this one was the the battle value cost, because it fit in right where I wanted it to be, and it's got the ER large in it, so there is some ability to harass at range with this one instead of just another large pulse laser.
Yeah,
Because
that's true.
the 2KO, I think, is the one that normally gets selected.
Yeah, that one doesn't have the MRMs, I do believe. But still, 5 medium pulse lasers is not a bad loadout for sure.
Correct. Yeah, the 2KO also, that's why I didn't pick that one. It doesn't have ECM. So while it does have a large pulse, and it seems to just have more laser weapons in general, including a flamer, the mobile ECM is part of why this one stood out.
All right, so since you decided to pick another melee mech to go along with your charger, I actually went a little bit different, and I went with the Wolverine. Yeah, I know it's vanilla, but I ended up going with a 3-4 Wolverine 8K. It's got the 585 movement profile. It can keep up with the charger for the most part, as long as it's not running in TSM. It's got 30 heat sinks, and it's maxed out on armor for a 55 tonner, so it can take a bit of a hit. But it's kind of serving a multi-purpose. Either it can hang back and let the charger, wraith, and some other mechs on the third mech, the fire javelin that I picked up, bounce around and be annoying and get up in the melee and hang back and offer fire support, or it can close the gap and start getting in there and mixing it up with the charger and be his little fire support right hand man without having to get into melee and overcommit.
Intersphere ERPPC though.
Yeah, I don't like the ERPPC. It's not an efficient weapon. There are definitely better weapons to put here, but I've got the heat sinks to fire it every turn, so I'm gonna. It's not. I was definitely deliberating. Maybe I should swap this Wolverine out for a different Wolverine or something similar to it, but I decided to stick with this one for versatility purposes. It's a little lacking in the damage department, but it kind of makes up for it in the utility department.
It's funny that you took this as like a standalone trooper mech.
Sort of. I took it as a multi-purpose. Either I would run it up with the charger, or I would have it hang back and be more fire support, depending on the mission or the situation.
Gotcha. And I mean, Wolverine's just, it's vanilla for a reason because it is good.
Yeah, and it's also only 7 battle value cheaper than your Nodachi, which is, in my opinion, Nodachi is significantly scarier than my Wolverine.
Right, but you got range on that. So I've got a 4-3, even though I got an ER large, you got an ER PPC, but you've got jump jets. I don't.
That's
Does it
true.
have ECM on that Wolverine as well?
No, the Wolverine does not have ECM. It does have case to protect its ammo, which is going to kill the mech anyway because it's an Intersphere XL engine. But no ECM, no nothing like that.
Well, it'd still be it's a good light mech hunter for the same reason as the Wraith, because that ERPPC is going to have really low target numbers to hit. Anything coming at it, it's got a streak 6, which can do some crit seeking. That medium pulse is good for fending off, another javelin like that one there coming in. So I do like it. It seems a little expensive for what you're getting, but it is a good fit for that role.
Yeah, it is pricey, so there might be better options in this. But we are in a time crunch, so I can't spend a week mulling over the MUL like I would normally.
Exactly.
So we'll go ahead and let you go into your next mech, because you've only got, or do you want me to go into my next mech? Because I've got 3 different ones compared to your 2.
Yeah, let's do that javelin, because I almost took that javelin, that exact same javelin, for probably the exact same reason you're about to go over.
So the Wasp I did not like because it was very damage anemic. Yes, it was a mobile ECM and a tag, but he had nothing to take advantage of the tag. The Javelin is a replacement for the Wasp. It's significantly more expensive at basically double the battle value, but it's also a credible threat. It's not got the best armor, only 89 for a 30 tonner, which is not great, but it's got a 696 movement profile, so you can get around, but you're not as fast as the Wraith. But you do have a lot of medium lasers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 medium lasers. We went over this earlier when I was speaking to myself. So I've got 7 medium lasers here, and you can fire 6 of them consistently if you run, and you can fire, I think 4 of them every turn if you jump and stay heat neutral. I consider this my backstabber. I'm going to keep him off to the side and move him up the map slowly, jumping for 6 every turn, keeping him in woods and or cover, assuming it's available, and getting to your back line if you have one, or getting into rear arcs if you don't, and unloading with 5 to 6 medium lasers in your rear arc. That's his job. That's his purpose, is to be that backstab threat, so you can't overcommit on my rear arc or on my front line in any particular direction.
And he has 2 hands, so if you did have a objective-based mission where hands are important, you've got something that can accomplish that, and with no ammo on board, he's not going to blow up for getting hit by something that went internal.
Precisely. This is my spider replacement, because I'm using a spider currently in my list, and I'm bringing an Ashcon, and this is what I considered my equivalent to that spider.
I'm sure somebody doing Math Hammer would say, well, 2 medium pulse lasers versus 7 medium lasers, you're probably running very similar damage outputs.
Well, maybe not similar. Yeah, probably, actually, now that you mention it, with the consistency of those pulse lasers.
Well, I meant in terms of like the number of pulse lasers that would hit it, say, like 4 hexes away.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So, why were you considering this mech? Anything different from the reasons I listed out, other than the hands, of course, which I forgot to mention?
The backstabbing wasn't quite so much what I was looking at. It was more of crit seeking. So let's say that charger punches a hole into the mech, or in my case, the Jaeger mech as well. Then I wanted something that could follow up the next turn to poke a bunch of holes in there. Because if I do 15 damage to a side torso, especially on an XL mech, then I've got 7 chances of potentially, rolling a 6 or an 8 and doing some crit seeking. So that was really going to be my crit seeker. And in the end, I felt the Wraith probably could do a similar job, or the Nodachi, with the amount of lasers that it has on it. But the Javelin was definitely in my list at least once.
Oh yeah, so similar purpose. I mean, I do have the Wolverine with that Street 6 for crit seeking, so that wasn't at the top of my priorities. I already had sort of a crit seeking ability with that Wolverine.
And then you ended up going with the Catapult, which is very different from the Eisenfaust that I ended up selecting. So this Eisenfaust is basically meant to be a objective holder / bodyguard for the Jaeger mech / bullet sponge, because it's decently armored for a 45-ton mech. It's almost max, but just decently armored in general.
Yeah, that's looking real good. 20 center torso, 16 on right and left. This thing is basically as armored as my 55-ton Wolverine. That's looking real good.
Yeah, but for 700 BV less, and while it doesn't have the jump jets, the movement speed, or the advanced weapons like the ERPPC, what it does have is AC-10, which you can mount in precision ammo. So that's my pulse laser at range to start popping any units that are trying to run up the field to get behind the Jaeger mech, and a large and some medium lasers, so it can still do some damage output at range, but also it's really meant to hold something down, or, like I said, protect the Jaeger mech.
Yeah, that precision ammo on that AC-10 is no joke. You can also pick off light mechs that are a little too brave and don't have enough TMM or cover. That's not a bad call for that Eisenfaust. It's another kind of fire support mech to back up that Jaeger mech.
Yeah, and like I said, he's just a drop it, he can take hits, and he can hold something. But your Catapult, though, I'm not familiar with the 1B.
So the 1B is basically the Star League, let's pimp this Catapult C1 out version. It's the Lost Tech upgrade of the Catapult C1. It's 65 tons, still got the 464 movement profile, 24 heat sinks, which is significantly more than the regular C1 has. So it can fire basically everything every turn and jump every turn, and you're good. I think maybe not quite jump, but it can walk and fire everything, and you're fine.
Yeah, I like that because I think you do need some sort of long range damage so that you don't just get outgunned on a map where there's tons of terrain or crap preventing your charger from getting upfield. So
Exactly.
that's a good that's a good call there.
Yeah, I needed some sort of fire support, like you mentioned. You've got the Jaegermech and the Eisenfaust. I've got the catapult, and I can rely. I can fall back to the Wolverine, uh, being the backup with that ERPPC. I mean, it's not great, but it's better than nothing. So the Wolverine is multi-purpose in this list. It's supposed to be flexible, so it can cover whatever I need to for a particular situation. And the catapult is fairly self-sufficient. It's decently mobile at 464, and it's got 4 medium lasers to defend itself with if anything gets too close. And the LRM-15s give me the option of bringing different ammo types. Granted, semi-guided isn't going to be of use because I don't have any tag on this list, but it's also not available for the most part or allowed for most of our MRC tournaments because it's kind of broken at the moment.
So all of your mechs can jump. Am I seeing that right?
Correct. And I did that inadvertently. I wasn't planning on it. It just worked out that way. So the entire list is fairly mobile.
Yeah, that's that contrasts with mine where I think just the Wraith and the Charger can jump. So I'm more of a static, definitely less maneuverable, where you've got something that could play to the terrain or set up and camp quite easily.
Yeah, I've played on some pretty heinous terrain maps lately, so having jump jets is definitely a plus. I was actually considering bringing a dart instead of that javelin, one with a light PPC and a targeting computer to act as light fire support for the catapult, and also maybe to run objectives if necessary. But I decided against it, and I went for the fire javelin instead. But I was heavily considering that dart for a good while there.
I was thinking about the Dart 4S, the one with some medium lasers on it, mainly for speed, because eventually I ended up going with, well, the Wraith and to an extent the Charger can jump, and then Odachi can run pretty damn fast for what it is. But I felt like I was missing an objective grabber, and the Dart was one thing I considered for that list.
Yeah, that's exactly the same role I would have used the dart as well. I mean, if there was no objective to grab, it could hang back and skirt the edges of the map and plink away with its light PPC, which isn't the best, investment for like 700 or 800 points, but it's also not terrible. There's worse investments out there, like that Wasp that can't plink from far away, that needs to get in close to do anything.
Yeah,
Uh,
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, one thing to note, this. Oh, wait, this isn't the one that has it. Never mind, ignore me. I was going to say this has active probe, but it was the other catapult I was looking at that didn't quite have the ammo, it didn't quite have the loadout that I wanted out of it. So I have no ECM and I have no active probe or anything like that on this list.
Oh, that's
I-
fair.
Yeah, so I don't have anything to cancel out C3 or Narc or Artemis or anything like that. So that is kind of a shortcoming, but I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. So you mentioned that you did have another list that you decided to throw on to Princess. We could take a look at.
So there were a few mechs that I looked at and I had, and then I took off, and I added back, then I took off. So one of them that I thought about was the Kosho. Anyway, the Koshi 5X. This was a inner sphere 65 tonner, so it had some chonk to it. Eventually, I ended up replacing it with the Eisenfaust and the Nodachi in a way, but it is another melee mech with claws, so it can do 10 damage on the punch table, which I thought, well, it's not quite going to be a head capper. If it was a head capper of some sort, I probably would have kept it in here. But it had some two medium lasers, a large pulse and a medium pulse, which could scare away lighter mechs. Um, and it had the ECM at a pretty decent price point. At 4.3, it was 1865 BV and decently armored. So it kind of fit the role of a second melee mech. It kind of fit the role as a light mech trooper. It kind of fit the role as a defensive mech, but it didn't really fit any of those three as much as I wanted. So in the end, I ended up nuking it.
Gotcha. I can see that. I mean, its weapon profile isn't that much better than the Wraiths for significantly more investment.
Correct. And yeah, it was close, but I think if I had some different needs, I would consider this one again, but it just kind of fell out.
Gotcha. And the 10 damage punches are just, so close, but not quite there to being a head capper.
Correct. Another mech that I considered was the Jaeger Mech 6S. At 3.4, it's the basic Jaeger mech, but having dual Jaeger mechs is never bad. But it's the dual AC5, dual AC2, dual medium lasers. It is a walking ammo explosion, but if you can park it somewhere decent, you can definitely snipe, and that precision I felt would round off well as the defensive mech for the other Jaeger mech's Gauss rifles.
Oh yeah, I agree completely. This is a solid mech, especially for how cheap it is. If you can get this up somewhere on Overwatch and just unload with all of your ACs every turn with precision ammo, even if you run out of ammo, this mech has earned its battle value.
Correct. And the only reason it lost out was the AC-10 on the Eisenfaust. I felt one of those hitting was better than multiple AC-5s hitting. I did like the crit seeking potential and the range of the AC-5 and AC-2s, but the chunk of the Eisenfaust as a secondary objective holder on something like a domination map, plus the AC-10 just being a bigger hole puncher and not being a walking ammo bomb is kind of the reason I went with that.
Yeah, gotcha. Just because it's cheap doesn't mean you have to buy it. It's only got 96 armor, so it's definitely a walking ammo explosion. Any of these light mechs, like the Wraith or that Fire Javelin, are a credible threat to this Jaeger mech, and they can, and they will close the distance.
So speaking of light mechs, the Fireball 7D was one, even at 5.5 or 6.6 skill, it was never meant to be an attacker. It was meant to be an objective runner, an initiative sync if need be, or if you check its movement profile, 11.17, this was going to be my inner sphere dash.
Yeah, that is one fast mech. 64 out of 69 armor, so it's as armored as it's gonna get, which isn't great, but I mean, this thing is booking it, so speed is life.
And because it has no weapons that can do at least 2 damage, you could jettison the machine gun ammo and just don't lose your SRM2, and then you can't be put in forced withdrawal for running out of ammo.
At that point, you might as well keep the machine gun ammo. I mean, anything hits this thing and it's gone. So
True, but that's the goal of it. Was if I needed to run objectives, if I needed to go get to the hill and then just turtle, this was going to be the mech, and I tried to make it as cheap as possible to try to cheese something where I could add in bigger mechs. It's just at the end of the day, it was 300 BV. I really only had 200 BV with the other mechs that I wanted to keep, even before bumping up the Wraith. I probably wanted a better piloting skill on this, so if I did do cheesy stuff like go prone behind a level 1 hill or try to run and kick somebody, it just didn't seem to quite do what I wanted it to do, even though it was one of the cheapest mechs. I think it's only like 4 mechs cheaper, and on the Mercs MUL, and all of them were like 6.9s.
gotcha. So yeah, that's unfortunate that you couldn't quite squeeze it in, but it just goes to show that like I said earlier, just because it's cheap doesn't mean you got to buy it.
Correct. And the last one, this one was actually one of the first mechs I picked to replace the other, um, the Wasp plus part of the Charger. And it's the Infield 6Q. So it didn't have ECM, which is why eventually the Nodachi, kind of why I went with that variant at first. But it has a large pulse and an LBX-10, which you can load cluster ammo on. So it can do that crit seeking and try to find those lighter mechs with the large pulse. It's got 2 medium lasers, which, are always good value for money. And it's a 5.8, so it's relatively speedy, and it's max armor for a 50-ton mech. So it's a good trooper mech, but I didn't have quite enough BV to use it, so Eisenfaust won on that regard.
Gotcha. And it's pretty cheap too. 1248 for a 50 tonner with an LB10X and large pulse laser. That's not bad at all.
Oh yeah, it's just a case of I needed less BV, and the role of a light mech hunter, the Wraith can do better.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, so that's a rundown of our pimpings of this list that the Carbon gave us to go over and pimp. So, let us know what you guys think. What would you guys have done? Comments below. Also, don't forget the giveaway for the Solaris starter box from Target is still going on. So, the only way to enter is to comment so I know who you are and I can tally how many entries you've got. Only once per video, mind you. Is there anything else you want to go over regarding these lists, or anything you noticed or want to comment on, Pirate?
So I definitely feel like these are mechs I've seen Carbon use, or styles I've seen him use, just knowing his play style. I've seen him with the dual Gauss Cyclops. I've seen him with the love for melee on his, I think it was a Scarabus he keeps trying to bring up in the Ebony and other sword-oriented mechs.
Oh wait, that Scarabus is no joke. I've seen them, and I was thoroughly impressed by their stats on paper, anyways.
Oh yeah, so this is a different list than I've seen him play before. The Wraith might be a replacement for a Valkyrie, and the Wasp maybe for a Spider, but I definitely see kind of a logic of where he was going with some upfront aggression, with some backline, scalping, and would be interested to hear what he has to say about some of the suggestions we made, and especially if he can get a chance to throw down, or someone wants to take one of these lists on Megamech and try running them out themselves.
Yeah, let us know how you do if you do decide that. And also, we'll accept list submissions to Pimp going forward as well. Next time, we may give ourselves some homework and give us a couple days to pimp these lists. That way, we've got more time to dig through the MULs and find those gems. But this time was an exercise in thinking on your feet and being pretty quick about it.
Oh yeah, so some of these might be considered cop-outs, like the Fire Javelin and the Nodachi, but there's a reason why some mechs like the Wolverine appear over and over and over, because they just are kind of good. But I would love to explore and go, aha, but this one here has a rear-firing medium pulse laser and has AMS for some reason, and go into why that makes sense for that list.
Yeah, definitely. So I think this was a nice little exercise in list building here. I had fun. I enjoy list building, so it's always a good time when I get to dig through the MUL and put my mind to balancing out a list.
Oh, list building is probably half the fun of the hobby. Now, seeing it get disintegrated when you put it on the table is less fun, but list building is a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's the other half of the hobby, which can go either way depending on whether or not the dice favor you that game, or whether or not you're playing terribly, which I do on occasion. But with that being said, is there anything else you want to throw out there, Pirate?
Nope, looking forward to doing this again. And yeah, if you do send us a list, also throw a little bit of any kind of thoughts or thinking of what you're doing, why you're trying to build, or what your objective for building that type of list is. And we can definitely tailor it a little more towards where you're going rather than the general list, which is where I think we both went today.
Yeah. So if you've got guidelines, like let's say I want a melee list and this is what I've got, help me fix it. Or I want a gun line. This is my list. Show me what you can do better. By all means, send us those requests as well. But I think that's just about going to do it for us tonight. Any closing thoughts or arguments there, Pirate?
Oh, I got lots of thoughts about that fire javelin, but I'll hold those for another day. That thing is the first time I got pushed off a map with my pristine blood ass.
Ooh, okay. All right. Yeah, we'll have to go into that another day because that sounds like a juicy story. But,
Oh yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, oh yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and call it here for tonight. So that's it for us. We'll be back hopefully next week and we'll have some more shorts out for you and some other stuff in the near future. So if there's anything else you guys want out of us content wise, just go ahead and tell us in Discord or in the comments below. We will be working on a generic list building guide for those of you who are interested and newer to MRC and Battletech in general. But that will be a little bit more of a long form video, even though this is already pretty long form as is. But we'll get into the weeds and when it comes down to that. But you have that to look forward to maybe next week. We'll see. Also, Operation Klondike starts in a couple days. So if by the time this video comes out, it's going to be down to the wire. You've got the whole first week to get your lists ready and start practicing and getting those games in for week 1.
Looking forward to that and excited to see, I saw some new faces joining MRC and some veterans coming back after some time off. So looking forward to running something fun, a little different than what we've done in the past, and hoping it's a nice fun event for everybody.
Yep. I can't wait. All 3 light mechs. Go, go, go. All right. So I think that's now we're going to call it a night. See you guys next time. Say goodnight, Byron.
Good night, everybody.